Hi, it's me, Bianca again. This video, I'll be talking about reading a pattern and also the Sing Your Confident Stylist sewing machine that I'll be highlighting in the house party that I talked about in the video before this. So bear with me while I set up my webcam so you're able to better see the pattern as I talk instead of me trying to attempt to hold it up like I did the last time. So hold on just a second. I'll just do it this way, duh. Okay, this is what a pattern looks like. You know, you go to the store, you look in the drawers. They have these books that you can thumb through. They're kind of like catalogs. Um, they're usually Vogue, Simplicity, McCall's. Is it McCall's or yeah, it's McCall's. And then I think maybe there's a couple of other ones, but these are the ones that I'm most familiar with. Simplicity was kind enough to send 2 patterns for us. So whenever you're thumbing through the catalogs, there's always a number associated with the different patterns. So whenever you open up the catalog, you write down the number, and then you go to the little drawers to find that specific pattern. Those of you who are not born, I guess, in the past 10 years, you're familiar with the library card catalog system. And that's similar to how this is. You would go, you find your number by the Dewey Decimal System, for those of you who are readers, and the librarian or whomever would help you, or you could help yourself, you'd go and you discover where that book is. Same thing with the patterns. So you write down the number. This particular pattern is 2381. So it would have been in the Simplicity book, and the number next to it would have been 2381. You'd go to the drawer that was marked with that series of numbers, thumb through, and pull out 2381. At the top, you will also see it says one size. That tells you what, I guess, obviously, the size that you need to be looking for your pattern. So let's take a look at the other one right here. You have this one, again, Simplicity, 2286. And at the top, you will notice right here, it has the size range, size 6 through 18. Hopefully that is clear. I'm not really sure if it is. I'm still getting to know this webcam clearly. On the front, you will see the pictures. The different views for this are the different, whenever you open up your pattern, it'll tell you, like, depending on how you lay your fabric and your material, that's the dress or garment or whatever that you'll be making. So this one has A, B, C, D, E, and F. All these different options that you can choose from. Additionally, at the bottom, it'll have learn basic skills for those of you who are beginners. Man, that's seriously out of focus. Okay, there we go. It'll have learn basic skills. That's important because if you don't know how to sew, you're going to want to look for patterns that say easy or learn, or some of those quick 2-hour patterns can be misleading. You may not always finish or complete your pattern in 2 hours if you don't know how to even thread your machine. So don't be a little overzealous. Start with something simple and easy, you know, and then work your way up. Not to say that you won't get there quickly, but, you know, go with the learn to sews, you know, and then next thing you know, you'll be jumping in and not even crafting patterns, going on the fly and getting crazy with it. Okay, also, so we talked about the different views. Here, we're going back to the bag right here. You have 5 different types of bags that you can make. So then whenever you turn the pattern around, right here, you will see, again, the number of the pattern and all the different views that you can make. This is especially important because they set it up like a table. Okay, I'm trying to straighten this out. The table is great because it shows you everything that you're going to need for each bag. So, you know, if you're going to make A, it recommends, like here at the top, the different fabrics that you should use. this is cool because it's also in different languages on this side, but right here, let's focus on the English side for this purpose. Okay, trying to focus, zoom, okay. So right here, suggested fabrics for the A, B, D, and E view are broadcloth, calico, chintz, lightweight denim, madras, and gingham, or madras. It depends on how you were raised and where you buy your fabrics. All of these, many of them are like different kind of cloths. You don't want to go with a knit for a bag, usually because it'll stretch out and it won't always keep its shape. But hey, these are just suggestions. You go with whatever you feel like going with. Next up, notions. Notions is everything else but your fabric. They're all the things, your little things like your threads, hooks, snaps, elastic, anything that you might need, other embellishments that you'll go with on your fabrics. That's what they mean by notions. You need to pay attention to this section right here, because just because you buy your fabric and you don't buy your notions, you're not going to have a completed project. So always, always, always pay attention to this section and make sure that you have it. I am forever forgetting to buy thread. So that's why it's important that you pay attention to here. Especially right here for A and C, it suggests you have a package of medium rickrack, and for C, especially embroidery thread in 2 colors. Okay, and then so the next section that it has you looking at are what your measurements are, the things that you'll need for each specific bag. Okay, I went up too much. So right there for A bag, it says you'll need 1 5/8 yard. Yeah, see, clearly my focus isn't as great. There we go. Yard of whatever fabric you select. And it suggests you have it in the 45-inch size. Some fabrics come in 60 inches, and so then you'll have to calculate difference of that. Try to find something with 45 inches if you are a beginner. Trying to calculate backwards and figure it out, and then you have all this extra fabric. Whenever you go to lay it out and actually sew with it, it can be really confusing, and then you'll feel like you wasted money because you bought too much extra fabric. So that's what that is. Next thing is interfacing. Interfacing is what you use to give a bag its shape. A lot of the grocery bags those reusable bags that you carry at the grocery store that you buy, they're 99 cents. It's not made of interfacing, but it has that same texture and feel of interfacing. So the interfacing just helps it give it its shape. It's also like another fabric. So whenever you're going to pick out your fabric, you're also going to have to pick out your interfacing. For the B bag, it has contrast. So contrast means it's an additional fabric that's going to go with the other fabric that you had. So here, let me find B so you can get a better look at what they mean by contrast. All right, focus camera. Okay, so you see at the bottom of the bag, they have one kind of fabric, and then at the handles is a different kind of fabric. That's what they mean by contrast. Okay, so back to our nifty, again, you can see B has interfacing, same with C. Lightweight fusible means it's going to fuse or attach itself to the fabric that you have selected. Some of this fusible, and I could totally be wrong on that, but that's how I was taught and that's how I interpret it. You can buy like the iron-on fusible interfacing. It's a little more expensive, totally worth it. Those of you who live in my area, there's actually quite a few fabric warehouses that you may not get necessarily the help like you would get at Joann's, but interfacing is really, really, really inexpensive and cheap. Not that it's that expensive at Joann's. So if you're a first timer, go to Joann's, especially if you came to my party, use your coupon, get the interfacing with the 40% off, get your fabric with the 40% off, get your notions for 40% off. You're going to be totally good to go. Additionally, one thing I forgot to mention, up here under the number, it has 26 pieces. that means that this fabric has 20, or this pattern has 26 different pieces for you to cut out, depending on, that's how many pieces are for each bag. Patterns don't come out cut out for you. So let me give you an example. So here is the little guide to show you how to sew it. You would unfold it, and then it has all of these different things, instructions, if you will. Most importantly, something that you need to not overlook. Whenever I was talking about the 45 inches versus the 60 inches, here is how it tells you to fold your fabric, lay it out, and then cut it. That way you can make the most of your fabric. Well, if you get a 60-inch fabric, clearly you're going to see you're going to have an extra 15 inches of fabric up here whenever you fold it. And that's not really, that's just, I guess, kind of being wasteful. But if you find a 60-inch fabric that you totally love, then hey, go with it. You're just going to have extra fabric. Anyway, so that's the guide. I'm not going to go into the details and specifics of the guide because it's really it's self-explanatory, but it can also be confusing, and it's not something that I have expertise in explaining on a YouTube video. So just pay attention, extra attention to the guide, because it really does walk you through most of the time. If you have questions, you can send me a message and I'll do my best to answer it. Anyway, back to the cutting out of the fabric. So you have this kind of paper. It's called pattern paper. It sounds like tissue paper, and they fold it up super tight. I swear, there's some serious mathematicians or engineers that put these things together, or they have, I don't know, I certainly probably have some special programs that generate these patterns, and they print them off on this paper. If you go to Bertastyle and you print off your own patterns, it's going to be in 8x10 sheets that you print off, and then you tape those pieces together. It tells you what goes where. If you buy a pattern, and not one that you print off on your own, you get this paper, and then you have to unfold it, and then you follow the lines, and you cut it out. The solid colored lines are where you cut. These are, I guess, kind of, they're not darts, but I call them that. It's just to show you where to line up your different pieces whenever you're putting them together, because patterns are like a puzzle. You have to put the two pieces together for it to work right. Pay attention also to what the different pieces tell you, because, for example, this particular one for B, it says it's a pocket and also says to cut to. So you got to just, sometimes you'll think, oh, okay, I'm doing great. I'm rocking and rolling with my pattern, and then, oh, I'm missing a piece. Well, if you look at your pattern, especially the paper, the base, whatever you would call this, you realize that you only cut one when you're supposed to cut four or something. So pay extra attention to that. Also, you see how small it's folded up because it's like a couple of sheets of this tissue paper. Well, once you cut it, you'll fold it yourself and attempt to put it back in this sack, and it's not always easy to put it back in the sack. So just keep that in mind and keep the pieces together. Sometimes after I cut them, and if I have multiple views that I've cut all of them out during that one setting, I will keep them together in a little separate plastic bag, and I'll stuff that plastic bag within that bag, and also maybe a note card with any notes that I found along the way that might have been inconsistent with the directions or the guide. So happy sewing. Also, sorry, one final thing is right here. Again, it has the number, the size, and then it has the suggested price right here, $15.95. Often Joann's has sales on their patterns where they're either 50% off, and occasionally they'll be like $1.99 or $2.99. Maybe it's like once or twice a year. Anyway, take advantage of that. If you're starting a new project for sewing, keep an eye out for those specific things, because you can pick up some really great patterns and not have to spend a whole lot of money for your projects, which I guess sometimes people get a little frustrated at, oh, I don't want to sew or I don't want to make my own garments because it's cheaper for me to go buy something. And hey, I'm all about that if you can find something cheaper, but if you can make it for yourself for less or repurpose something old and make it your own, go for it for sure. So anyway, hope this taught you something. I only talked about patterns because holy cow, it's already been 15 minutes. So next up, talk about the Singer Confident Stylist Sewing Machine.